this is, I think, one of the biggest conversations that's happening around the NBA right now. And it's Chet Holmgren versus Victor Wembanyama.
And I hate this conversation because it's forcing you to pick a side on two demons. But damn it, I hate that we're having this argument 5 games in.
Interesting.
Because it was not a conversation in the offseason. But I'm willing to have it. Let's have this conversation. Because apparently Wemby does nothing better than Chet, right?
I don't think it's nothing better than Chet. I think there are things that Victor does better than Chet. But I think what's lost in the Chet thing in his rookie year is that he had a pretty historic rookie season. He averaged, 19 points? No, he averaged 16. But on the efficiency that he did it at,
ridiculous.
He was the only player to do it at that efficiency. I think over maybe 64% true shooting percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
Amazing. 37%
I don't know if
from
Riv
three.
will fact check me.
Yes.
Listen, I think Wemby's going to have the better counting stats than Chet because he plays for the Spurs and there's nobody else that can do anything on the Spurs. And I think that's also a hindrance to Wemby because there are moments where the spacing is awful. They're putting wings on Wemby at first and then having a backline defender.
And he Devin Vassell back.
Everything is just keyed in on him. And Chet, he doesn't have that same level of defensive attention.
True shooting.
Yeah, he doesn't have that
nuts.
same level of defensive attention. But at the same time, I think you see these two players and what they do side by side, their skills. I think Chet is a better shooter. I think Chet and Wemby's ball handling is a little bit better. I think Chet is a little bit more fluid of a ball handler. I think he's a better passer than Victor Wembanyama.
This is where he gets a fit.
I'm not
And
having a fit.
When watching the Spurs and OKC game, and it was clear that OKC was trying to take Wemby out the game. But there are also moments where Wemby just has to play better. Like when he's putting the ball on the floor and he's getting it ripped from him. Like there are times where he's not as secure with the ball. And I think that he's a fantastic talent. But I think what we're noticing right now is that it is really hard to carry a team. And there are some players that are slapped on with that generational talent mark. Victor Wembanyama being one of them. Zion Williamson was another one of them. And they aren't able to burden that load of the franchise that soon. You look at somebody like Luka Doncic, his second year in the league, the Mavericks didn't have a good roster. They had the #1 offensive rating in NBA history for that time in Luka's second season. And Luka was phenomenal, and they made the playoffs. And he went toe-to-toe with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And I feel like when we think about Wemby, for all the hype that he's gotten, we're expecting him to be that good. But I don't think he's that good yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think Chet right now is making a leap that is kind of similar to Wemby. Like, I think these two are peers. I don't think Wemby is by far and away above Chet. I think they're peers, and I think they should be looked as that.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Please. I would love to hear you, actually.
I want you to
I would love to hear you.
The last thing I have an issue with is that I don't know why Wemby had minus odds to win DPOY. I feel like they were going to give him the award
we spoke about that. We knew.
Because Duke
Last
could
year
average
came
like
in
fucking
second.
4 blocks.
He came in second his rookie season. And
We know the Defense Player of the Year award is
please, go to please, Riv. I'm asking you to talk.
It's a crapshoot award. Like
Should
Tim
be
Duncan's
Draymond
never
every
won
year.
it. No, Tim Duncan's never won it.
Bam's never
Ram,
won.
let me ask you
AD's
this,
never
like,
won.
is Wemby at this point in time a better defender than Evan Mobley?
No,
Is he better than Anthony Davis?
no,
Is he better than Draymond Green right now?
No.
Is he better than Bam Adebayo?
no.
Like, I feel like all these defenders
say Rudy, but
just
yeah.
kind
Bam
of
hasn't been great to start off.
all those.
Defensively, he's the same. Offensively,
I feel like all of the players that have been deserving of this award that haven't won it kind of just got put on the back burner. It's like, oh yeah, Wemby's just gonna win it.
but it's the
Like,
guys who
all.
average, like, if you get a shit ton of blocks while also being a great defender, you're probably going to be in it. Like, Giannis is in it. Rudy's in it.
Jaren Jackson won it solely because, well, let me not say solely, that'd be rude to
mainly
him.
he gets
because
a
he was
shit
an
ton
elite
of
shot
blocks.
blocker.
Yeah, like
Wemby's going to have double what
yeah,
Jaren did,
defensive player of the year favors to the blockers. There's no shame. Like, nobody's saying Wemby's not great. Is he elite? Probably not. He's like 20 years old, 21 years old. It's okay to not be elite. The conversation that Drew is begging.
I'm not begging. I'm asking you simply to talk.
I think it's interesting. I think this is going to be a conversation that's going to be had for 10 years, whether it's true or not, is one thing. But Chet, they both got drafted to do two different situations. And I think Chet getting drafted to a good team, nothing crazy, them missing a year, and then him being there, and then them just propelling themselves to like a number 1 seed or top 3, whatever it was seed, them being great in the regular season, dominating and stuff like that. Now this year, coming into the year, Chet's played great so far. It's only been like 5 games, 4 games, or whatever it is. Chet's been playing amazing. And Victor is going to get that tag of he has to, like, generational talent, you kind of have to carry your franchise. When you get that tag, unfortunately, you have to carry your franchise. And Victor's stuck in this situation in San Antonio where, everything is going to get scrutinized a little bit more because he's gonna be able to show more. Chet is playing with arguably the best guard in the league. Probably the best. Well, Luka's a guard, so arguably the best guard in the league. So he has to share that with SGA. Chet is also playing with J-Dub, another guy he has to share with. Also, OKC has a bunch of really good role players that they have to share the sugar with. So as for Victor, he's in San Antonio. It's just him. So a lot of things are going to be shown more. Right. A lot of things are going to be shown more.
How many players on OKC do you go through till you get to the second best player on the Spurs right now?
Oh, it's a good amount.
Oh my God, so many.
Who's the second best player?
All right, here we go.
Devin Vassell.
I said right now because Devin Vassell's not playing.
Okay, all right.
That's
We'll
what I'm
be
saying.
back like this
All
week.
right.
Who's the second
So
best?
SGA, Chet, J-Dub, Alex Caruso, Dort.
Who was the second? Who have we established?
I guess Chris Paul, right?
Jeremy?
Shohan, okay.
Jeremy Sohan has played well.
He's been all right. He
I
has.
think he's better.
I'd take all those 5 guys over Jeremy Sohan.
Hardenstein hasn't played.
Hardenstein hasn't played. It can't count
we have
because
to count
you're
this
not.
out.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. Agree.
we have to count
Agree.
this out.
Kaysen?
You can argue. I can argue
Yeah.
it.
I think Sohan's been playing
Wiggins?
better, but I think Kaysen.
Is that where you go too far? Aaron
Isaiah
Wiggins?
Joe.
Or is that
I
Joe?
contemplate.
Wiggins, when we go too far.
OKC's a by far better team.
Yeah, it's not close.
Yeah, that is,
I
it's
think
not,
that's why you're kind of comparing apples to oranges in a sense because like Wemby, we have these arguments all the time when like you're looking at a guy who has everything around him and a guy that has to carry everything, right?
Wemby's
like,
the better talent for sure.
I do think right now like Chet has made a leap that maybe we knew Chet was going to progress, but Chet has taken like a pretty substantial
For
leap
sure.
this season.
Chet's a better number 2 by far.
Yeah, I agree. I do think
he's
he's
a
a
one.
better number 2, but also you have everything around in OKC that makes Chet fucking amazing. Like Chet, if no one was there, he'd obviously still be really good. But the fact that he had a 64% true shooting percentage, would he do that if he was with the San Antonio Spurs? No, probably not.
I think he's shooting more efficiently than Wemby though.
Maybe I don't know what Wemby's was last year off the top of my head.
What did
I'm
Wemby
not
shoot?
sure.
Like below 30% from 3?
33 second half.
Second half
I think
was
Victor's
better, yeah.
No, for the
one-on-one game
whole
is a lot
season.
better than Chet's.
For the whole season, I'm asking.
But I think like we're joking about Chris Paul, but it's true. Like the big
shot
addition the Spurs
33%
made
in the season.
was getting Chris Paul, and like no disrespect to Chris Paul, legend, one of the best to ever do it. This is 40 years old Chris Paul who. He can pass, like he can throw lobs.
He's a really good passer
That's
still.
all Chris Paul's really got right now. Like it's hard to. He's not a threat when you're on a pick and roll. Chris Paul's not really a threat outside of throwing a lob to Wemby, and they picked up Harrison fucking Barnes. So like they're just in 2 completely different situations. I do think Wemby in the long run is gonna be a better player. I just think what he brings, although Chet has similar qualities, I still think Wemby at his size, being a few inches taller, doing everything he could do, is gonna be better in the long run. But as we stand right now, I mean, yeah, I think calling them peers is fair. Like, Chet has been nothing short of sensational this year, right? In the fucking 1 week sample size we have, like, Chet's top 10 MVP candidate. That's how dominant he's been. He's been arguably better than SGA for this first week of the season. He's been that damn good. But I think over the long run, I'd still take Wemby. I do see Chet, though, as a number 2, and probably the best number 2 in the league. I see Wemby as, like, top 3 player in the league at one point.
Let me ask you something, Drew. So before the
Let me know
season,
I haven't spoken. Okay, I'm ready.
so before the season, we talked about Wemby being an All NBA performer.
Yes.
Do you think? I know it's early in the season still, but who has a better chance of being an All NBA player this year, Chet or Wemby?
Chet.
Okay,
Very easily.
and it's solely because of the team he's on, but the level he's playing
both.
at
Both.
as well.
Both.
Yeah.
For sure, both. Again, I don't like this conversation because I'm being pigeonholed to disrespect one of these guys. Chet Holmgren has been a star this season. He's been one of the best defensive players, but the leap we've seen him take offensively, the aggression that we've seen out of him offensively is what's moved me the most. Also, as a rebounder, that's also what's impressed me a lot too, because last season really wasn't as aggressive as a rebounder because, again, I feel like a lot of his responsibility was blocking shots, and that kind of deters you away from the rim a little bit. But this season, he's really been aggressive in both aspects. Now, all of us can sit here and say shooting off the dribble is harder than shooting off the catch. Agreed? Like, that's pretty consensus. It's harder to create for yourself and shoot and be efficient. So when that becomes the conversation, I can't hear that Chet is a better shooter than Wemby because he's more efficient with his opportunity when he shoots less than him. And a lot of his shooting opportunities come from catch and shoot, which again, I give you credit because you have to make your opportunities. And for a majority, Chet did last season. This season, he hasn't been this amazing three-point shooter. Now, Wemby has not been an efficient basketball player this season. Now, if we want to talk about defense and people are trying to criticize Wemby's defensive IQ, I hate every person that's come to me with that because a lot of them have said that because of him. A lot of them are saying that because, Wemby's defensive IQ is just not as high as Chet. And here's the thing.
Playback?
When we were on playback, he said that. Wemby's IQ is just not that good. And when Riv actually breaks it down, Riv knows basketball. For the people that don't know, that's what actually pisses me off because I try to ask them, explain it to me. Like I'm a 5-year-old, what does that mean to you? So in fairness to Riv, his decision making and when he's deciding to jump to block a shot, his positioning, that's fair. To the regular casual that, you guys don't know. You guys are lying to me if you're like, Wemby's defensive IQ is bad. Because nobody came here last season saying that. Maybe that's what ramps me up the most with the now suddenly Wemby's this overrated defender because his IQ's not that high. I guarantee you, for the rest of his career, Chet will be an amazing defender. He will never sniff a 5x5 in his career. He will never fucking do that.
You think Chet can't do that for real? 7-3?
5x5. He's done it twice already. He's 3 players in NBA. No. It does not. It does not. But I'm just trying to.
Saying it's impressive. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. There's only been 3 players in NBA history to do it multiple times. He's one of them already in year 2.
Chet's one of them unicorns.
As an offensive player, Wemby is the better He is the better player. He's more talented on the offensive side. He is
I don't think he's more skillful offensively.
He is. He creates for himself well more than Chet does. Well more than Chet does.
So looking at this, I mean, you used the shooting off the dribble. Now.
Last year, Wemby was elite off the dribble. If I'm not mistaken, 41%.
He was. But that's not the only facet of basketball. And that's off of 3-point shots off the dribble.
But it's also difficulty is what I know.
I know that's difficulty, but I mean, still, who is a better catch and shoot 3-point shooter? It's Chet. Mm-hmm. Like that's a skill that he's better at. Now I'm gonna use just last year's numbers. I'm not gonna use this year's numbers because it's too small of a sample size. So last year Chet shot 73% at the rim.
Yeah, makes sense.
Wemby was at 70%. On all mid-range shots, Wemby shot 37%. Chet shot 48% on all mid-range shots.
I feel like
on all
it's
3
hard to compare these stats though.
Probably.
The difficulty, the spacing you have around you, the attention you're getting.
Again, on offense, thank you, gentlemen. And this is all I wanted.
Well, who's a better 3-point shooter? Well,
Wemby is the better 3-point shooter.
Not.
You're going off of a percentage. Don't lose me.
Wait, so because Wemby is a better
creator
because he's a better off the dribble shooter, he's just a better shooter?
Yeah.
Who's a better shooter, James Harden or Klay Thompson?
I was gonna ask that.
But Klay Thompson's also great off the dribble too.
But James Harden is objectively way more better
because he does it more.
Okay, who's a better shooter, Klay or James Harden?
Klay. Not even a conversation.
But James Harden is shooting harder difficulty degree of shots.
Because I feel like this is where the conversation is.
Yeah,
Dame
was a better one. Yeah.
Damn.
Because Dame is just as good both ways.
He is. Dame's an amazing shooter. I think Dame's one of the best 3-point shooter of all time.
Yeah, we're obviously talking about Portland.
I'm nuts to say Dame's a better 3-point shooter. I feel like I'm not.
I don't think so. I think a lot of people say he's the
second
best.
And also, off the dribble, what were Chet's numbers? Do you have that?
Off the top of my noggin, I don't have it.
Okay.
But 41% when I say that where a lot of the offensive creation for them is give the ball to Wemby, see what he can do with the ball in his hands. Now, this season, it should be a little bit more different because you do have Chris Paul, and when Vassell comes back, there'll be 2 guys that do have the ball in their hand and start to play make around him. That's what I hope for. But a lot of it last season was Wemby, here's the basketball, let's see what you can do with it. And more often than not, especially post All-Star break, we saw him be very efficient, but also we saw the counting stats match it too. And people like to say, you can't just say he's 7'5" and shooting 33% is not good. We just objectively, that's the truth. 7'5", when you can create for yourself like that, and 41% off the dribble, but on almost 8 attempts, you're shooting 33 to 34% from 3. That is impressive.
I think you keep defenses honest, but I still don't think you can classify that a good 3-point shooter.
It's tough though because big men. How many efficient
And also, I think
with that volume outside of Karl Anthony Towns?
I think what you're describing right now is actually one of the bigger frustrations that people have with Wemby is that he's 7'5" and he's attempting 8 threes a game.
I agree with that, and that's a very fair point. I agree wholeheartedly. I will say his touch around the rim is amazing, though. His finesse, his skill, his post game is great.
Well, that's why he needs to do it more.
But I still think he's trying to find the combination of both where this season, although it's 5 games, we all went into it with the idea the Spurs are not a play-in team. They're not a playoff team. If this season is a work on my game type deal, because I know I don't have the talent here, what's the one part of my game offensively that needs refinement? Passing. I'll give it to you. I think he's a good passer. I will say it's the 3-point shot. And we started to see it last season progress, but we know he has the touch around the rim. We know he's a dominant force around the rim. He can get that whenever he wants to.
So let me ask you something. The generational tag was slapped on Wemby.
Yes.
Why is it not slapped on Chet? Is it because he's 4 inches shorter?
I think
Is he even
coming-
4 inches shorter?
no,
He's 7'1".
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He
But
fucking
Chet is
feels
just a
like-
giant.
He
He's a
feels
giant.
like Chet feels like
Like,
a
what
giant.
about
Here's the thing.
what about their
Chet,
games?
Chet was given that.
Not the same as Wemby.
Not, of course not.
Not the same height,
But
but
it's
he-
not. But my point being is they felt very passionately that Chet Holmgren was an alien himself. Paolo was amazing in the college basketball tournament, just in the season as in general. And honestly, I don't think either team is mad at their decision. I think Paolo is amazing, and what he's been able to do for the Magic speaks volumes. But Chet Holmgren also, on top of him being an alien, is on the second best and arguably the best team in the NBA. I say arguably because you guys are the champion. Of course, you have to give you guys the nod there. They're perfect. They have everything. And it's unfair of me to go and say, well, if you switch the two, but if you switch the two, Wemby isn't going to be a freak of nature too.
He is.
Wemby's going to have amazing spacing.
I do think Chet just works better as a 2 though than Wemby. And I think that's a knock against Wemby.
But why?
I think he's better off the ball than Wemby.
Right now, we all agree SGA is better than Wemby.
Chet, yeah.
We all know that. He's better than Chet, obviously.
Yeah.
I still think Wemby would defer to SGA because he knows SGA is the better
Do
player.
you want him to?
Yeah, well, I don't like the conversation
I'm
about
fine
being
with
a
it because
2
SG
or 1.
No.
I think that it doesn't matter, to be honest.
That's not where I'm going with it. Where I'm going with it is there's so much talent on OKC. There's so much spacing on OKC. There's so many great defenders on OKC. I'm not saying that Chet is playing amazing because of that. That's ignorant.
But is there?
It
Great,
helps.
Was it great spacing before Shaq got there? Honestly,
well,
with SGA and Dort in the lineup. If SGA if Wemby goes
Yes.
hypothetically,
Yes.
then you give the ball to Wemby, you're still sagging off SGA, you're still shagging off Dortz. Like I don't think the spacing became what it was because Chet was able to be so efficient from the 3-point line last year off the catch.
But down the
Also
stretch,
J-Dub.
especially,
J-Dub too, of course.
especially in the postseason, we didn't see him have that same level of
of course,
efficiency.
but teams still respected the jumper.
And I don't disagree there, which is kind of goes to what I'm saying, where I agree. Chet definitely gave them that 5-out mentality.
For sure.
But where I say is you put Wemby there, it's a similar mantra. It's similar idea.
I will say, I don't think we could just discredit Chet and OKC's leap.
Agreed.
Because they
100%.
took the first seed leap when he came back.
They
and he
took
was
that
healthy.
defensively because
Now,
of Chet.
Listen, I respect you for trying to use the off the dribble argument. I just don't think that there's enough of a sample size from Wemby taking off the dribble threes that is the only stat that we should hang our hats on when discussing better 3-point shooters.
Why is Chet the better 3-point shooter
Because
then?
I
Because he's
have-
4% efficient?
I have some numbers for you. This is from NBA.com. So this is last season. I already
Of course,
told you.
you have
I
to.
wasn't going to use these numbers from this season. Catch and shoot 3-pointers. Chet is shooting shot 38.5% from 3.
Wemby was 29.
Wemby shot 19% from 3 on catch and shoot 3-point shots. On pull-up 3-point shots, Wemby shot 28.6%. Chet shot 16.7%. Now, the 3-point attempts were 0.3 3-point attempts per game for Chet, and for Wemby, it was 0.5. Now, the stats you're probably
What is
referring
this for? 0.
This is for pull-up shooting, pull-up
All,
threes.
the entirety of last season.
Last season, basically, Wemby's taking 1.8 3-pointers a game, pull-up threes per game.
Probably got
Versus
more as the season went on.
versus Chet was 0.3. So Wemby did take more of those shots. Now, I think the off the dribble shooting comes from multiple dribbles. So looking at NBA.com, like when you can split and track, like when you can track the shooting numbers, you can see how many dribbles they take. So when Wemby's taking 3 to 6 dribbles, his 3-point percentage is 66.7%. When Chet is taking 3 to 6 dribbles, his 3-point shooting is 60%. So Chet on those same type of dribble type shots was a similar
How many
shooter.
are these guys doing? 66% off 3 to 6
I don't
dribbles.
need your
Yeah.
big- I don't need your big ass
Chet was
size.
0.1
Okay.
and Wemby was 0.8. So they both
So
did
1 to 0.
So they both didn't attempt much
we
of these
round
shots
over here.
a game. That's
0.1 is almost nothing.
that's why I don't think that the shooting argument should be based off the dribble numbers. Then we get into the 2-point shooting. Chet Holmgren, from Wemby as a 2-point shooter, 2-point field goal percentage, pull-ups was 57.1% on 1.18 attempts a game. Chet, it was 48.1% on 1.3 2-point field goal attempts.
That's still pretty fucking good. 48%.
Oh, deep.
Yeah, I mean,
Wemby is just-
57.
Like
is
I'm just looking at
ridiculous.
these two players, and I think that
I just
the
think the
skill
shooting-
sets are very similar.
I don't disagree.
And I think Chet right now, you can argue, is a bit more refined in those areas.
he also did have an extra year where he was injured.
yeah,
he wasn't in the
that
league.
counts. That's fair. I think that's
I
definitely
just
fair.
think when it comes to shooting,
I think two things can be true. I think they could have similar skill sets, and you can think one is just way ahead in the skill set department. So they're both aliens.
like to say that Chet's smarter than Wemby right now, I'm not against
he
that.
was like that in college. Like at
Chet
Gonzaga. He was-
is one of the smarter defenders in the league.
Yeah, he's
Does
OD.
that by any means mean that Wemby isn't? No, and I'm not saying that's what you're
No,
saying,
that's
of
what you
course. But again, how smart Wemby is in the lanes, how great he is as a shot blocker. He already is in conversation for the best shot blocker in the league.
I think more than anything, it just shows that we probably were just too low on Chet. Like the fact
Fair.
that like I don't think this should be taking Wemby down any, like saying about anything about his generational tag. Like Wemby, what we thought about Wemby entering the draft, entering the season is the same. I think we just were too low on Chet because for whatever reason, whether it's because he's playing with SGA or because Wemby came in the year after and he's 4 inches taller and he got all the hype. I think we're just too low on Chet because he's showing this year he could do all of this shit too.